Yuki is an ugly weeb wasting his life writing a diary on his phone. His life changes when his imaginary friend reveals himself to be a god and forces Yuki to play a battle royal game for the powers of God. With that, Yuki teams up with his psycho stalker and promises to clap her if she helps him win. However, before any of this, Yuki casually types in something in his cell phone during his class. The class gets dismissed and Yuki walks out the class while still typing something on his phone. The class teacher gives another student called Yuno Gasai some tasks. Yuno agrees while Yuki notices this and notes it down in his phone. Yuki is actually a desperate loner who likes to keep a journal on his phone. He gets home and starts his second hobby, which is to connect with his imaginary friends. One of them is called Deus Ex Machina, who manages space and time, while another is Deus' assistant called Murmur. Deus asks Yuki what he would do if he gives him the powers to foresee future. Yuki just laughs this off. Late at night, a girl runs away from someone through an alley. She gets caught at the end and is butchered. Yuki wakes up next morning and realizes his mobile has journal entries from the upcoming day even though he hasn't written them. His big brain ignores this. He sees the news about the serial killer incident and realizes his phone already has the journal entry about it, but the reality still doesn't kick in for a genius like him. He goes through the day and several incidents pop up, but he realizes every incident is written in his journal in advance. Later, Deus tells him that Yuki has been given powers to see future through his phone. Deus explains that reality and imagination is not separate for a creature of his status, and that Yuki's life is now linked to his phone, so if his phone somehow breaks, Yuki will die. In school, Yuki uses the future diary to avoid getting into trouble. He also uses the diary to cheat in his test and catches Yuno giving him a look. His big brain ignores this too, but later he finds a clay statue of Murmur on Yuno's desk. Suddenly his diary entries show a dead end and Yuno appears. She asks whether his diary is showing a dead end and he runs away from her with. Yuno follows him. He runs to a building's elevator and Yuno appears suddenly like the stalker she is. She shows him her phone and Yuki thinks she is going to kill him. Just then, she rushes forward and kisses him. She then tells him that her own future diary told her he won't hurt her and that the local serial killer called Third, who also has a future diary, is coming to kill him. She shows him her diary, which says Yuki is going to die soon. She then tells him that her diary shows details about Yuki's whereabouts or what he's doing 10 minutes in advance, giving Yuki the vibes that she's a stalking psychopath. They go to the roof and Yuno shares her plan. The killer arrives on the roof and Yuki and Yuno wait in hiding. Just when the killer takes out his phone to see the future, Yuno attacks him and Yuki throws his dart at the killer's phone. The dart hits its mark, defeating the killer, and he disappears. Later, Yuki confronts Deus about the other future diary users. Deus takes him to a showdown where Yuki faces 10 other future diary users. Deus explains that they all have to participate in a survival game, and whoever is standing at the end will inherit his powers and become god of space and time. He also informs the others that Yuki has used his skills to eliminate one diary user already. The others warn Yuki that they will be coming after him. Yuno later tells Yuki that he shouldn't worry since a desperate stalker like her is here to protect him. After class, Yuki approaches Yuno like the desperate loser he is to ask for her help, but she tells him to contact her later. Another girl called Uryu approaches Yuki and asks him whether he knew his homeroom teacher Hiyama was a serial killer who was killed yesterday. She notices his phone and calls him the first future diary user. Suddenly, Yuki's phone shows a dead end just as Yuno jumps in the class and hits Uryu. Uryu jumps out the window just as Yuno rushes out the classroom with Yuki, and the building explodes. Yuno assures Yuki that she will kill Uryu first, making Yuki think that maybe he can use Yuno's help even though she's an unstable deranged animal. With that, they both kiss. Uryu announces to the whole school that they are all her hostages since the school is rigged with explosive. Yuno and Yuki sneak through the school, changing routes based on Yuki's diary entries. Yuno tells him his diary is useful since it shows what happens in the surroundings. They read Yuki's diary and keep avoiding the explosions. Yuno tells him that since his diary doesn't include details about him, her own diary covers this weakness as it only contains details about Yuki's movements. Yuki then starts to rant pathetically that he is a coward who's going to die soon. Police arrives outside and an officer called Kurusu, who's a future diary user, tells his team to call the snipers off. His diary reads that if Uryu dies, the whole school will explode, killing everyone. Meanwhile, Yuki and Yuno sneak to the other building. Yuki spots his classmate and rushes to him pathetically, not knowing that Uryu has announced that she will let everyone go if they deliver Yuki to her. Yuki's classmates restrain him and they surprisingly capture Yuno as well. They take Yuki to the crazy Uryu, who announces to the school that none of them should try to leave since the building is rigged with motion sensors which will sense movement and explode. Yuno gets furious since Yuki had gone to his classmates on her suggestion. Just as Uryu is about to kill Yuki, the deranged Yuno rushes through the school, triggering the motion sensors and making all the explosives go off. Yuki yells at Yuno to stop so that everyone doesn't die, and Uryu tells him that in 10 minutes, the whole school was going to explode anyway. Just then, Officer Kirusu steps in and tells Aryu to step down. He introduces himself as the 4th diary user and shows Yuki his case diary, which shows how his investigations will progress. Aryu tells Kirusu that he should kill Yuki and then kill himself, otherwise she will obliterate the whole school. Seeing that Kirusu is about to kill him, Yuki starts to cry like a wuss. Just then, Yuno jumps out the building and attacks Aryu. Yuki rushes towards his phone and Yuno shouts directions at him so that he can avoid the explosives. The genius Aryu realizes Yuno is a future diary user, so she attacks her. She then attempts to explode Yuki, and Yuki's schoolmates throw books at Aryu to stop her. Yuki then lunges at her with a dart and stabs her eye. Aryu somehow escapes in a magically appeared bike. Later, Kirusu proposes that the 3 of them with Yuno and Yuki should form an alliance to stop the gang. Aryu wakes up from a dream of war and bloodshed when she was a child. Kirusu asks Yuno and Yuki to help him identify the other diary users. On his suggestion, they go to an amusement park to act as bait to lure the sick Aryu out. Meanwhile, Aryu tries to escape the police. She uses her diary called Escape Diary to dodge the police while the police rushes after her. Yuki and Yuno go to a haunted place where Yuno gets scared easily, and Yuki realizes Yuno maybe not be a psychopath after all. They take many rides, and Yuki, who wasn't that smart to begin, starts to find Yuno cute. When they go to the pool, Yuno's bathing suit floats away and she sticks close to Yuki so that the others don't see her. Yuki can hardly control his thoughts, and the lifeguard finds Yuno's suit for her. Yuno suggests going to the planetarium next, and Yuki refuses to go. They ride the Ferris wheel and Yuki asks Yuno why she stalks him. She instead asks him why he didn't want to go to the planetarium since he likes stars so much. She explains that a year ago, she had seen that Yuki had written in his future survey that he wants to watch the stars with his family. Yuki had then told her that he had no family left since his parents were divorced, and Yuno had assured him that she can become his family by marrying him and that he can watch stars with her. Yuki had thought she was joking back then. She then kisses his forehead like the goodbye he is. On the way back, they share an umbrella like a sick high school couple, and Yuno invites him back to her house. Meanwhile, a creepy stranger approaches Aryu, who is hiding from police, and helps her escape. He takes Aryu to a safe place where he gives her painkillers and a bed. He calls himself a defender of justice, and she threatens him that he will regret what he's doing. In Yuno's home, Yuki comes across a weird-looking place while searching for a bathroom, not that it should be a surprise since it's Yuno's house. Yuno peels an apple for Yuki in the kitchen while her diary reads that they both will become one soon. Aryu falls down due to whatever drugs the stranger gave her. The stranger then asks her about the first diary user's identity while taking out her injured eye with his fingers as if it's the most casual thing to do. Yuki decides to open the creepy door even though his diary doesn't mention this movement. He opens the door and the future of all the users changes instantly. Deus comments that Yuki has changed everything by his one action and he was right to choose Yuki. Yuki sees blood and body parts in the dark, and just then nutcase Yuno appears behind him. She asks him why he had to go and do such a thing. Yuki runs away to his house with the speed of light. Yuno then knocks on his door. She wishes him good night and reminds him that she will see him in his dreams. Yuki hides in his room wondering with his genius brain whether Yuno actually killed the people that he saw earlier. He starts to call Kirusu but gets a message from Yuno asking who he is calling. He realizes he cannot escape her. Kirusu comes to pick him up next morning, and just when Yuki's about to tell him about Yuno, Yuno pops up from Kirusu's car and tells him not to tell all the embarrassing things they did in her house. Kirusu informs them that Aryu was captured by a religious cult called Onkata cult and that they are going to their shrine. In the shrine, Lady Onkata, also called Tsubaki, already seems to be observing Yuki. She thinks to herself that Yuno is an unnecessary third wheel. They all go to meet Tsubaki, and Yuki notices the place resembles a prison. Tsubaki introduces herself as the 6th diary user who has a clairvoyance diary that tells her about faraway people who come to visit her. She tells them she doesn't want to become God and that she has a dead end. She goes on that she wants to exchange Aryu for Yuki. Yuki agrees to stay for a night, going against the wishes of the possessive deranged Yuno. Yuno's diary reads that Yuki will start mistrusting her because of Yuki, and she decides, like the rational person she is, that she should kill Tsubaki. Just then, Tsubaki's bed sheets burst into fire and her followers rush to save her. However, they start to go into a trance and begin attacking one another. Yuki goes to help Tsubaki, but Yuno stops him and tells him it's a trap. She tells him they should go back home, and Yuki yells at her that she would have killed him if he hadn't run away yesterday, and that she wants to stuff him into her closet like the others. He then goes to save Tsubaki. The water sprinklers start and shut the fire down. Tsubaki yells at her followers to stop fighting and then thanks Yuki for his bravery. In the basement, the stranger teases Aryu about her eye since it's such a funny topic and tells her she's no match for Tsubaki. Tsubaki and Yuki realize that someone's using hypnosis to control Tsubaki's followers. Meanwhile, the stranger starts acting freaky, which worries Tsubaki. Yuno confronts Tsubaki and tells her she should let Yuki go or she will kill her, which isn't new at this point. Just then, the future changes and another dead end gets triggered for Yuki. The stranger reveals himself as the 12th diary user who can hear the future. Yuno realizes that the enemy can hear what they are doing through the followers' bodies. The followers who were just playing dead start to get up and Yuno begins her favorite hobby of killing all the followers around her. She then asks Yuki to choose her and get saved or choose Tsubaki and die. Tsubaki recalls that when her parents realized that she could see the future, they built up a cult around her. However, she was still happy and her visitors were kind. Soon her parents died in an accident, and the cult started using her body for their own lust. She became the cult's sacrifice and started hating everything. Yuno rushes out with Yuki and Tsubaki. Kurusu calls Yuki and tells them go to the front gate where the police will protect them. Meanwhile, 12th tells Aryu that he infiltrated the cult to fight against their bad deeds and to get rid of Tsubaki. He then throws the keys to Aryu to help her escape before rushing out. As the Ninja Turtle trio gets close to the front gate, Tsubaki stops them and suggests that they should face the enemy. Yuno switches on her psycho mode to kill her. Just then, Kurusu, who has caught Aryu, calls Yuki and warns him that 12th is coming for them. He also informs Yuki that 12th is blind. 12th makes his dramatic appearance with 4 other imposters. The 5 Power Rangers appear and 12th warns Yuki that Tsubaki is deceiving him. 12th then tells Yuki to go away since Tsubaki is his target only and that since his own dead end has been triggered, he will blow himself soon and take Tsubaki with him. He tells the gang that the other 4 imposters are just hypnotized followers. The Shining Knight in armor Yuki tells Yuno that he won't go since he has promised to help Tsubaki. The 5 12th rush at Tsubaki while Yuno picks up a stone and rushes at them. She throws the stone sideways, causing the real 12th to turn towards the stone. Yuno then spots the real 12th and slices him with her axe, killing him. He falls to the side and his body explodes. On Tsubaki's orders, her followers restrain Yuki and Yuno. Tsubaki reveals that her plan was to eliminate all of them from the start. When Yuki reminds her that she is a virtuous god-serving maiden, she tells him she is not virtuous and even suggests that she can teach Yuki some things. She then kisses Yuki. Afterwards, she opens her diary to find that her dead end still remains. Yuno, who has activated her sharing, and after seeing Tsubaki kiss Yuki, starts to kill everyone around her. She rushes forward and even cuts Tsubaki's hand. She gives Yuki her phone and tells him to run away. She then falls down unconscious. Kurusu and Aryu witness everything and they discuss how to escape. Tsubaki's followers treat her hand and Tsubaki tells Yuno that when she'll become god, she will destroy the world. She then suggests using Yuno as bait to lure Yuki out. Yuki hides underneath the shrine and reads both the diaries to figure out what to do. He reads Yuno's diary and realizes she's even more of a deranged stalker than he imagined, but that at least she loves him. He then sees a ball on the ground. Meanwhile, Tsubaki gives an announcement that Yuki should come out or else her followers will start to use Yuno's body one by one. The followers begin to take off Yuno's clothes and Yuki, listening to all the struggle, rushes outside to help Yuno. He runs through everyone and goes to Yuno with the speed of light. Tsubaki tells him to give up since she can see the future and Yuki tells her that he will win since he is choosing Yuno this time. He runs forward and throws the ball in the sky. All the followers look at the ball, which makes Tsubaki's diary entries change. She leans forward to protect her diary, but realizes she only has one hand and can't pick the diary up. Yuki shoots a dart at Tsubaki's diary, which kills her and she disappears. Yuki then apologizes to Yuno for coming late. Later, Yuki wonders who Yuno really is. He then kisses her. Meanwhile, Aryu, who has also escaped, wonders why Kurusu exchanged numbers with her. Yuno breaks inside Yuki's house, which is her usual hobby, while Yuki picks his mom up from the airport. Yuki and his mom go their home and his mom questions why the window is broken. Through his diary, Yuki realizes Yuno has broken the window and is cleaning his room. He rushes to his room and Yuno tells him that she wants to make a good impression on his mom so that she doesn't realize Yuno is a pathetic stalker. Yuki's mother asks Yuki about the cooking in the kitchen. She then comes to Yuki's room and Yuki pushes Yuno inside the closet in a hurry. Yuno tries to come outside, but Yuki, using his non-existent strength, manages to keep her in. His mom notices that he's hiding someone in the closet and tries to force him away, but Yuki pushes his mom outside his room and shuts the door. Yuno finds Yuki's dirty magazines and Yuki takes them away from her. Just then, his mom enters the room and sees everything. They all sit down to eat food and Yuno serves food to Yuki's mom. They both start discussing Yuki and soon their conversation turns to marriage. Yuki meanwhile wants to dig a hole and die. Aryu gets a prosthetic eye from a doctor. The doctor tells her that he also has to evaluate kids for foster care and that the kids are the children of Onkata clan dead followers. Yuki's mom shows Yuno Yuki's pictures when he was a kid, making Yuno the luckiest person on earth. Meanwhile, Days comments how each user and their diaries are unique to them. Murmur replies that hopefully the game ends soon before his body deteriorates. Yuki's mom tells Yuki she is getting 3 days off from work to look after the kid of her dead co-worker who was killed in Onkata cult incident. She also tells Yuno to stay for the night. While Yuno takes a bath, Yuki's mom tells Yuno to take care of Yuki. Yuno thinks Yuki has a very nice mom, and then she has a flashback of the dead bodies inside her own home. Yuno then sleeps inside Yuki's room. Like the desperate creep she is, she asks Yuki when he is going to make a move on her, and he tells her that he doesn't like her in an intimate way. She tells him her diary states that they will join each other on July 28 and that she will wait till then. Yuno then comments that she knows Yuki will fall in love with her and they will get their happy ending. Yuki realizes he finds Yuno cute but reminds himself that she is a nutcase. Meanwhile, Yuno thinks to herself that since Yuki's mother is a nice woman, she doesn't have to follow her plan to kill her anymore. In the morning, Yuki's mom introduces the new kid called Raizuke to Yuno and Yuki. Later, Raizuke makes a drawing which resembles Yuno. Yuki, who's always having such positive thoughts, thinks to himself that Yuno may be Raizuke's parents' killer and wonders whether Raizuke may even remember Yuno. Raizuke runs to give Yuno the drawing, but he slips and falls on Yuno while holding his scissors. Yuno doesn't get hurt, and Yuki's mother asks Raizuke not to run while holding scissors. Raizuke then goes to the washroom and takes out his future diary. He thinks to himself that Yuno is going to be a hard nut to crack. Still in the washroom, Raizuke thinks his diary is weak since it only posts 3 entries a day in the form of art and some scribbling. He then devises his plan to kill Yuki and Yuno. At lunch, Raizuke looks forward for Yuki and Yuno to eat the salad he made since he has injected poison in the tomatoes. Yuno, the genius psychopath, notices the tomatoes seem heavier and she throws the salads away. Yuno later tells Raizuke that she wants to take care of him, so she will keep an eye on him, and this nutcase behavior makes Raizuke really excited. He mixes salt in Yuno's bath water to electrocute her. Yuki notices Yuno will get electrocuted through his diary. Meanwhile, Raizuke asks Yuno whether he can join her in her bath. Just as he is about to put the electric wires in Yuno's bath, Yuki, somehow using his non-existent brain, trips the circuit breaker, and the light goes off. Yuki then rushes to Yuno, who notices Raizuke's wires. They both realize Raizuke is a diary user. Meanwhile, Kurusu informs Aryu about Raizuke, and Aryu wonders why he's giving her such information. Yuki and Yuno begin to search for Raizuke's diary to stop him, but they are unable to find it. Yuno, the most rational stalker, gives up and begins chasing Raizuke to kill him. She mistakenly hits Yuki's mom instead, who falls down unconscious. Yuno thinks she must find Raizuke's diary so that Yuki may forgive her for being a nutcase and for hitting his mom. She realizes Raizuke must have gone to the convenience store and delivered himself the diary. Just then, the deliveryman arrives with the diary, and on Yuno's instruction, Yuki rushes forward to grab the package. He opens the package and a poison gas fills the house. Yuno drags Yuki to the washroom where he vomits his guts out. Raizuke tells Yuno that if she can find him, he will give her the antidote for the poisoning, and that otherwise Yuki will die. Yuki warns her that it must be a trap, but Yuno thanks him for worrying about her and runs out. Yuno rushes through the house to find Raizuke. She breaks a window to breathe and then continues her search. Raizuke manages to dodge her based on his diary entries. Yuno finds him on the 2nd floor. Suddenly, water starts to pour down, and just then Raizuke electrocutes Yuno. She gets shocked and falls down. He is about to kill her when Yuki magically appears and throws a dart at Raizuke. Raizuke runs away, and Yuki kisses Yuno, because who wouldn't want to kiss a crack case on their deathbed? Yuki falls down, and Yuno, who has once again awakened her, sharing in from the kiss, goes after Raizuke. She then finishes Raizuke off, who gives her the antidote. He also tells her before disappearing that she won't have any choice left but to kill him once the game comes to an end. Yuno falls down before she can give Yuki the antidote, and just then, Aryu enters the scene. Yuki wakes up and sees Aryu walking away from him. Another user makes a request to Deus to transfer his diary to a third party. Yuki goes to his newly opened school and comes across Yuno on the way. He also spots a stranger staring at him as if one Yuno wasn't enough. In the classroom, Yuki comes across his old classmate Kusaka, who had handed him over to Aryu previously. Kusaka loudly broadcasts that many students died because of Yuki, and he starts to rant pathetically about making Yuki's life a hell. Another student called Hinata shuts Kusaka up. In class, the teacher tells them to walk to school in pairs due to the recent murders. Hinata tells Yuki that the recent murders have been brutal, with teeth marks on the bodies. Hinata's friend named Mao also tells them about another student called Akai's, who seems to know everything and is always playing detective. The three of them, along with Kusaka, go to the murder scene after school. And Yuno, the local stalker, tags along. They visit the sites and have fun, while Yuno grumpily just hangs around, probably planning their murders. Hinata also tells Yuki that he is her friend. Hinata then runs away and tells the others to follow her. Yuno asks Yuki to go back home, but he doesn't listen to her. Meanwhile, Hinata stumbles across something wild in the forest. Yuki and the others walk forward but don't see Hinata anywhere. Just then, the future changes and Yuki reads that Hinata has died. He runs ahead and spots Hinata's body beside the bushes with her cut arm lying nearby. A pack of dogs appear behind Hinata's body. Suddenly, the stranger from earlier called Akai's appears. He informs them they will all die without his help. He then tells them to run towards an observation deck. Akai's takes Yuki's hand and starts to run, not knowing that he will probably get killed by Yuno because of this. In the forest, a dog keeper puts a steak on the stove and talks with his dog called Mirai. He prepares and then serves food to his dogs. The dog keeper comments that since he has given his dogs and diary to someone, that someone should achieve the task. Meanwhile, Yuki and the gang reach the observatory where Akai's tells Yuki that he's been keeping an eye on him since Yuki seems to be linked with all crazy cases recently. The dogs seem to be close to breaking, and Yuno suggests to Yuki to use everybody else as decoys to escape. Yuki instead uses his diary to point out the windows from where dogs will break in. The gang listens to Yuki's instructions to defend themselves against the dogs, and soon the dogs give up and leave. Kusaka thanks Yuki for his help and asks him why he has been looking at his phone the entire time. Once again, pathetic loser Yuki thinks to himself that the others are his friends, and he tells everyone that his diary can tell the future. He explains that he used his diary to help them against the dogs. Mao comes up behind Yuki. She takes his phone and put up a knife at Yuki. Just then, the door opens and Hinata enters. She comments that she didn't expect Yuki to reveal his identity so soon, as if Yuki is such a genius. Yuno steps forward, but Hinata stops her by showing her own breeder's diary. She then tells them she's not after Yuki's diary, but rather she is after Akai's future diary. In the past, the dog keeper tells Hinata, who is his daughter, that he has been killing all the possible future diary suspects, and that he wants to become God to turn back time so that he can be with Hinata and her mother once again. Hinata tells him that they can start over once again, and he tells Hinata that Akai's has discovered him so he cannot go back now. Hinata wonders what will happen if she can finish Akai's off. In the observation deck, Hinata tells Yuki that she used him as a bait to lure Akai's out, and this hurts tiny little feelings of Yuki. Akai's proposes that they should play a guess game of coin flipping, and if they guess right, he will hand them his diary. He asks Hinata to flip the coin as a warm-up first. Hinata flips the coin and Akai's guesses right, even though she doesn't follow Yuki's diary's entry. Akai's then flips the coin and Hinata guesses the right hand after pathetically reading Yuki's diary. The future suddenly changes and Akai's reveals that both his hands don't have the coin. He then asks Hinata to hand over Yuki's diary. She hands over Yuki, who has less value than a mobile at this point, and asks him to play another game. Meanwhile, Yuno jumps on Akai's and checks his mobile. She then confirms that Akai's isn't a diary user, but rather a normal person, and Akai's confirms this. Yuno is about to kill Akai's, which is her only hobby since birth, when Akai's flips her over. He asks the others to continue the game, and Hinata declares that she will kill them if she wins. The world's most desperate loser Yuki asks Hinata to become friends with him if Akai's wins. She melts at his rainbow behavior and agrees to Yuki's request. She also agrees to let Yuki live if she wins. Hinata flips the coin, and while Yuno covers Yuki's ears, Akai's makes a correct guess. Yuno lies to Yuki that Akai's has lost, and then she punches him to make him unconscious. Akai's explains that Yuki thinks they've lost even if they have won, and this alters Yuki's diary, making it unreliable. Mao takes out a knife and Yuno jumps at her. Yuno stabs Mao and then all of them rush out. Hinata orders the dogs to hunt down the gang, and Yuki suggests that he should stay behind to convince her to stop the hunt. The gang decides that Yuki will try to convince Hinata while the rest will distract the dogs. Yuno follows Yuki because it's her life purpose, and she tells Yuki to use the others as decoys to escape. Yuki rushes to Hinata, but Yuno gets to her first. She asks Hinata to stop her dogs and then threatens to kill her. Yuki arrives at the scene and Yuno to stop, but she doesn't listen to him. He decides to take one for the team. He then introduces Yuno to everybody as his girlfriend and asks Yuno to act nice towards his friends. Yuno lets Hinata go. Hinata asks Yuki why he wouldn't let her die, and he explains that it's because they are friends. Hinata's dad calls and tells her that he made a mistake to hand over the diary to Hinata and that he was lying to her from the start. Just then Kurusu approaches him and kills him. Yuno digs a hole in the ground for Yuki. She then stops and wonders what she is even doing. Murmur reads Uryuu's past to Deus, in which Uryuu attacks Hiyama before he attacked Yuki for the first time. Hiyama avoids all her explosives and attacks Uryuu, so she runs away. She falls down and hurts her legs. Just then, a police officer called Nishijima finds her and handcuffs her. He tells her he was looking for her all along. Hiyama, however, appears and they both run away. Uryuu takes Nishijima to an abandoned place. She goes to pee and accidentally gets wet when she kicks at the pipe. On Nishijima's insistence, she changes into a frock that they found in one of the rooms. They then start to plan on how to take on Hiyama, and Uryuu tells him in frustration that she only has one sonic grenade left. Nishijima teases her and they both somehow fall to the ground like a sick high school couple fooling around. Nishijima tells her that he didn't expect her to behave so normally. They scheme together to tackle Hiyama. When Hiyama enters the building, he gets lured in a studio where Aryu triggers the sonic grenade. Deus and Murmur observe that Aryu then shoots at Nishijima, who is wearing a bulletproof vest. She then leaves. Yuki waits for Akai so that they can watch a movie, and Yuno the nutcase stalker approaches him. She shows him the message from Akai's telling Yuno to meet him at the bus stop so that they can go check bridal dresses. Yuki realizes Akai's has tricked him. They both reach their destination where they try out food for weddings, much to Yuno's lifelong happiness and wishes. Yuno then tries out a bridal dress and Yuki compliments her. They take a picture together and Yuki realizes that shockingly he's enjoying himself. He reminds himself that Yuno is a crack case who keeps dead bodies in her house. They then participate in a practice ceremony, and Yuki wonders whether he can forget what he saw in Yuno's house. Later, Yuki thanks the staff woman and realizes that she is Kirusu's wife. Yuki then takes Yuno to her home where he finds Akai's snooping around. He gets horrified to think that maybe Akai's has seen the bodies, but Akai's opens the door to the room and Yuki sees no dead bodies inside. Instead, he comes across a hole dug in the backyard. He asks Yuno what she has done with the stuff that he saw before, and Yuno asks him what he is talking about. She then tells him to come inside so that she can serve him properly, as it's his first time visiting the house. Akai's later tells Yuki that Yuno's mind has altered her memories to remain stable. Meanwhile, Kirusu tells his team that Yuki and Yuno are responsible for Hinata's father's death and that they should be arrested. Kirusu suggests to Aryu that he will call the police off and leak information to her in exchange for his one demand. Meanwhile, as Yuki is returning home, police officers capture him. They also bring in Yuno, who reassures Yuki the wuss that she will protect him. She then turns on her psychopath deranged self and creepily suggests to hide both their phones. She begins to look for a weapon and Yuki assures her everything will be fine. Kirusu meets Yuki first. Kirusu suggests to play Russian roulette, where they will try Yuki's luck by shooting a gun loaded with one bullet at him and then at Kirusu one by one. Yuno realizes the future has changed. She takes a fire extinguisher and casually goes out to take out an officer as if it's a picnic day for her. Nishijima runs after her and she whacks him too. Meanwhile, Kirusu shoots at Yuki and himself one by one. When only one bullet is left, he tells Yuki that the alliance is broken and that he wants to become God now. He's about to pull the trigger when savior of mankind Yuno appears and shoots at him. She shoots him twice again and Nishijima appears. Yuki stops her from shooting at Nishijima too and begs her like the loser he is to come back to her normal self. She turns off her psychopath self and makes her escape with Yuki and Nishijima. Meanwhile, Kirusu doesn't die since he was wearing a bulletproof vest. Police officers chase the group. Nishijima and Yuki rush to the staircase and Yuno shoots at an officer, injuring him. In the staircase, 3 officers chase the group and Yuki shoots at one of them. Both of them officially become criminals after shooting at the officers, and Kirusu's diary starts to show details about them. They rush to the roof and Yuki apologizes to Yuno for not keeping a nutcase like her under control, then kiss and jump off from the roof. They then somehow escape and officially become fugitives. Later, they both hide in a hospital building where Yuki, acting like a fat cow, whines about being hungry. Yuki spots Kirusu's wife going in the hospital and they both follow her. Just then, an explosion occurs and Aryu appears. She restrains Yuki and Yuki struggles to get free, triggering another explosion. They both get stuck in the ruined hallway and Yuno throws a staircase at them to help them cross. Yuki and Aryu argue on who should cross first, and Aryu suggests that she will spill details about Kirusu if they make a temporary truce with her. Kirusu calls Aryu and tells her to stall for some time. Aryu instead yells at Kirusu to get lost and shuts down his call. Her future changes, showing a dead end. Aryu then takes Yuno and Yuki to a hospital room where Kirusu's wife is tending a kid. Aryu reveals that Kirusu's kid named Yoi is dying soon and that Kirusu wants to become God to save him, making him the only person so far with a rational motive to become God. She then suggests to use Kirusu's family to tackle him and also tells them that their alliance is temporary till Fourth is defeated. The police arrive outside the hospital and Kirusu orders them to dispatch SWAT teams even though the hospital is rigged with explosives. Aryu asks Yuki to patrol the hospital while she negotiates with the like a rug rat. Yuki finds a gun but Kirusu warns him not to shoot. Kirusu then threatens to kill Yuno if Yuki doesn't drop the gun, and just then, Yuno also wakes up. Yuki reads his diary and realizes that he will accidentally kill Yuno if he shoots at Kirusu. Yuno tells him to shoot anyway and that she will be happy even if she ends up dying since Yuki has already made her so happy. Yuki gets all sentimental and starts whining that Yuno should have more self-respect, as if that's possible. He tells her that he wants to make her even more happy and make her his bride since he loves her. The future starts to change and Yuki shoots at Kirusu. Kirusu gets shot. Akai's goes to Yuki's house but he doesn't find him there. He also comes across Nishijima. Meanwhile, Yuno doesn't let Yuki get off at their trip destination. She tells him that she has a better place in mind. Murmur tells Deus that Kurusu was balancing things in the survival game too much, so she did something to make the game faster. She then asks Deus if he'd like to make a bet with her. Yuno and Yuki wait for a bus at the stop and Yuno gives Yuki a drink. Meanwhile, Akai's invites Hinata and Mao for a trip to Natural Springs and they take up his offer. Hinata and Mao enjoy the springs. Later they join Akai's and Kusaka and Akai shows them his actual diary in which he jots down his cases. Aoji also shows them his clown diary that he keeps. At night, Akai's recalls that Nishijima had briefed him about all the future diary users and how he had tried to trace where Yuno and Yuki might be. Akai's had asked Nishijima to give him the bus route in which Yuno and Yuki were last seen. In the morning, Akai's takes the gang to Nishijima. Nishijima tells them that he needs their help in finding Yuno and Yuki who might be in the town nearby. He tells them that Yuno might have kidnapped Yuki, which isn't new at this point. Nishijima explains that the town has many abandoned buildings, so it's a perfect place for Yuno to exercise her nutcase habit. They split into group of 2 and begin to search for Yuki and the crazy chick. On Akai's suggestion, they narrow their search and begin to look in the places which have light and electricity. However, both of the groups start coming across traps confirming that Yuno may be nearby. Akai's and Kusaka get trapped in an elevator. Meanwhile, Hinata gets a text from Yuki asking for her help and she rushes to save him. Akai's and Kusaka somehow get out from the elevator and meet up with Mao, who explains the situation to them. Akai's comments that the message to Hinata must be from Yuno. Soon, Mao gets a message from Hinata telling her she has found Yuki. They all rush to the hotel where Hinata had rushed off to. Inside the hotel, Akai's spots Yuki, who doesn't respond when Akai's calls him. Akai's and Mao go to his side, but then they realize that it wasn't Yuki, but rather it was a dummy with a wig they had spotted. They all get trapped inside the room and soon the room starts to get filled with gas. They realize that they will die by Yuno soon if they don't escape the room. Meanwhile, Yuki sits on a chair trapped. Murmur tells Deus that her bet is on Yuno that she will win the game. Deus tells her that he still believes in Yuki and has no doubt that Yuki will be the last winner. Kusaka and Mao try to get out of the locked room while Akai's in his cool casual way just stares at the camera. Meanwhile, Yuno prepares food and attempts to feed Yuki, who looks like he is halfway to hell. Hinata tells Yuno to stop hurting Yuki, who can't even respond. Yuno feeds Yuki some food and then announces that he has to pee. She brings a utensil to him and is about to pull down his pants when Akai's interrupts her through the camera feed. He asks Yuno whether she has 2 skulls with her. He then explains that while Yuno was missing, he snooped around and found 3 skeletons at the bottom of the hole she had dug in her house. However, 2 of the skeletons had their skulls missing. Knowing Yuno, she probably went on a picnic with the skulls. Yuno gets furious and accuses him that he woke her parents up. Akai's replies that he left the corpses in their place. He then threatens that if she doesn't let them out, he will inform the police about the bodies. Yuno turns her psychopath self on and starts laughing. She tells them she has no idea what they're talking about and shuts the camera feed off. Akai's comments that Yuno must have altered her memory again. Kusaka starts to freak out that he's about to die. He types in his last message to leave in his diary, and suddenly a notification pops up in his diary telling him that his diary been promoted to a future diary. Using his diary entries, Kusaka escapes through the vent and approaches Yuno. He confronts Yuno and tells her that he's a diary user. Meanwhile, Yuki also begins to wake up. Yuki recalls that Yuno must have drugged him at the bus stop and that he couldn't escape her after that. Yuno throws Kusaka the key for the room and then she throws the key to unlock Yuki on the ground. Kusaka rushes to the control panel to unlock the room just as Yuki realizes that Yuno is planning to kill Kusaka, which shouldn't even be shocking at this point. Kusaka unlocks the door and turns around to unlock Yuki but sees Yuno aiming at him with a crossbow. Yuno shoots an arrow at Kusaka's thigh and he pathetically starts to beg for his life. Yuno then begins to roast Kusaka's diary. With Hinata's help, Yuki gets himself free. He takes the crossbow from Yuno and then slaps her, much to everyone's satisfaction. He reminds her that her own diary has weaknesses too. He then sets Hinata free. His diary tells him that 3 other users are coming for him, so he starts to leave with Kusaka and Hinata. Yuno whines that he can't leave her since she cannot live without him, but he tells her to screw herself and leaves. In an orphanage, a girl tells Kamado, who is the 8th diary keeper, that she has sent 3 apprentices to take care of Kusaka. Nishijima takes Yuki and the gang away. Akai's reminds them Yuno might still be coming after them. Just then, a car with 3 other diary holders passes by them. Meanwhile, Yuno leaves with her stuff and thinks to herself that Yuki needs her since they still have many enemies. Deus messages Yuki that he will explain about the 8th diary keeper and child keepers. In school, Yuki explains to his gang that the 8th diary keeper's diary is like a server from which several other diaries called child diaries can spawn. He breaks Kusaka's phone but nothing happens to Kusaka. Akai's explains that Kusaka's diary was a child diary and that they had to break it so that 8th would stop eavesdropping on them. Yuki's future changes and he tells the others that some child diary keepers are going to attack him in 3 days. He wonders what he will do without nutcase Yuno's help, and his gang starts to plan how to save him. Yuki cannot believe this, and Akai's assures him that they are there for him. Yuki realizes his mom is home and they both eat dinner together. His mom then throws the scary bombshell on him that the dinner was made by Yuno the sicko, but she left before eating it. On the day of the attack, Akai takes Yuki and the gang to Kusaka's mansion, which also has a cell phone tower of its own. He tells them that the police will guard the mansion and that his plan is to shut down the phone signals once the child keepers arrive so that they are unable to get any diary update. The child keepers arrive and the power goes out. Yuki tries to turn off the switch of the cell phone tower, but fails due to the power outrage. He realizes that someone else must have also known about their plan, and just then, Yuno the local expert Stalker comes in the scene. She begins yapping that she will protect Yuki, and Akai tells her to come up to Yuki's side. He tells Yuki to distract Yuno while he and Kusaka can go and switch the cell phone tower off manually. Akai and Kusaka leave and Yuki ties Yuno's hands up. Just then, 2 child keepers barge inside the building while fighting with Nishijima. One of them knocks Nishijima out. The 3rd child keeper informs 8th about the situation and she instructs him to keep an eye on everything. The gang runs away from the child keepers. One of them throws knives and injures Hinata and Mao. Yuki and Yuns manage to escape and Yuno asks Yuki to untie her like a good boy. He doesn't listen to her and both child keepers then barge in. Just then, Akai shuts down the cell tower and Yuki celebrates pathetically that they have won. The 2 child keepers throw away their phones and take out another pair of phones with their real future diaries. One of them introduces himself as Marco while the other one calls herself AI. Both are the 7th diary keepers with their diaries called the Exchange Diary. Yuno asks Yuki to untie her and promises that she will never kidnap him again. Yuki unties her in pathetic desperation. Marco and AI explain that their diaries tell details about each other's movements and that their love makes them invisible. AI throws a knife at Yuki and Yuno blocks it. Yuki praises Yuno like the loser he is, and Yuno's sharing and activates at his praise. AI keeps throwing knives and Yuno blocks every one of them. Soon she runs out of knives and AI and Marco retreat. The mansion bursts into fire. Yuki and Yuno start to rush outside and Yuno tells Yuki that he can use her and pretend to be her boyfriend just like before. Marco and AI approach them just then. Yuno and AI fight with each other and Yuno is about to butcher AI when Marco blocks her and gets injured instead. He then attacks Yuno. The smoke disappears and Yuki sees that Yuno the Invisible Hulk has been defeated. Marco lectures him about being a coward and not helping his woman, and Yuki tells him that he is weak. Marco then throws him off the railing in anger. Yuki's and Yuno's diaries get taken away while the both of them get hospitalized along with Hinata and Mao. Just then, Ryu approaches them. Nishijima asks Ryu to take care of Yuki as a part of their bargain since Ryu is such a mother figure rather than a terrorist. Ryu tells Yuki to follow her plan to take down Marco and AI. Yuki's dad enters the room and finds Ryu sitting on Yuki doing push-ups, competing for the biggest creep award. He asks Ryu to sit on him instead. Later, he keeps jumping on Ryu like a dog on heat and Ryu tells him that he will train with Yuki, to which he agrees. Yuki starts to whine like a little girl that he wants his parents to remarry and that he can't go stargazing with both his parents now. His dad tells him that he will try if Yuki can beat him in Ryu's training. Ryu asks Yuki and his dad to do pull-ups and Yuki wins at the task, but Ryu declares his dad the winner. Meanwhile, Yuno observes that Yuki seems to be having with his dad and realizes that she won't have to kill his dad after all. How nice of her. Ryu asks both of them to race to the hilltop as a final task. Yuki's dad tells Yuki that he is in a huge debt and that he got divorced due to this reason as well. The race begins and Yuki the champ begins to lag behind. Ryu advises him to put up a fight. He reaches the top and finds a note from his dad telling him not to worry and that he's found a way to repay the debt. Nishijima thanks Ryu for her help since he wanted Yuki to think that Ryu has a plan to defeat the 7th. He comments that due to this 7th won't destroy Yuki's diary. Meanwhile, Yuno on her stalking frenzy follows Yuki's dad to their home where Yuki's dad searches for Yuki's phone. He then tells someone on the phone that he will destroy Yuki's phone soon in exchange for his debt. Nishijima goes to the orphanage where he asks the 11th diary keeper called Kamado to search for the premises. Meanwhile, in the hospital, Yuno starts to attack Yuki's father as a part of her morning routine, but Yuki stops her. Yuno tells him that 11th diary keeper is using his father to destroy his phone. Just then, Marco calls her in the hospital. He tells her to bring Yuki's father to Sakurami Towers or else he will destroy both their phones. Yuki goes to the tower with his dad and Yuno where they meet Marco and AI. Marco knocks his dad down. He then shows him their diaries and asks him to fight him for his dad's sake. Yuki rushes at Marco and get knocked down in 2 seconds. Yuno realizes that AI might be holding the real phones in her bouquet. Just then, Yuki's dad rushes at the fake phones and breaks Yuki's phone. Yuno rushes at AI like a mad woman. She snatches Ai's bouquet and throws Yuki's phone at him. The building then starts to shake, and the third child keeper called Ta announces to Marco that the time is up. The floor underneath Yuki collapses and Yuki falls down. In the past, Ai's mom abandons her in the Sakurami Tower and Marco finds her there. He takes her in Kamato's orphanage where they grow up together. They hang around in school and do everything together. Ai's classmates call her to an old factory to bully her, and when she reaches there, a group of boys force themselves on her. Marco gets Ai's text and rushes to the factory. He witnesses everything and attacks the boys. Later he asks AI to forgive him and even attempts to kill himself, but AI stops him. He assures her that he won't leave her alone and that he will protect her. In Sakurami Tower, Yuno helps Yuki up while Marco restrains Yuki's dead. Marco and AI then rush to the top with Yuki's dead, and Yuki and Yuno follow them. Marco and AI celebrate that at least they've gotten married in the tower just like they planned to. They get off the elevator with Yuki's father and come across Yuno. Marco yells at Yuki to come out, and Yuki announces through the speakers like a proper wuss that they will have to face Yuno alone. Marco fights Yuno and knocks her down. He then grabs her diary and rushes off to find Yuki. He realizes too late that the diary he took from Yuno is a fake one. Meanwhile, Yuki rushes at AI and throws a dart at her. Marco runs outside and yells at AI to avoid the dart. AI avoids the dart, but Yuno, being pro, manages to slash her neck. Yuki's dad snatches Ai's parachute from Yuno and escapes with it. The tower's ceiling starts to fall. Yuki's dad lands on the ground, and Yuki's mom, who noticed this, runs to him. She asks him to tell the police everything and even tries to drag him to the police, but he doesn't budge. He gets angry and then rushes at her with a knife. Yuno and Yuki get stuck under the rubble. AI, who's injured and is also stuck under the rubble, tells them Marco will know everything that's going on through his diary, and that she will die soon with them. Yuno finds the perfect opportunity and threatens AI that she will kill him if Marco doesn't come to her first. Yuki tries to stop her, and they both hear Marco digging the rubble. Marco yells at Yuki to grow a pair and to help him clear the rubble. He then yells at Yuno that she only does what she wants without caring for her man's wishes. AI tells Marco to leave her to die, but he reminds her that every moment with her is precious to him. He lifts some rubble, and they all see that Marco has been impaled by a metal rod. Yuki asks Yuno to help lift the rubble, and she doesn't listen to him. He then asks her whether she actually loves him or is only just a crazy nutcase. She then helps him lift the rubble, and together they take AI out. Marco gives them his parachute, and they both escape the tower while Marco and AI remain behind to die together. Yuki tells Yuno that he wants his help in patching up things between his parents. He lands on the ground. His dad then runs to him and tells him that his mom has died. In the past, only a week after Yuno began stalking Yuki as a professional mental stalker, she sees that Yuki has a love letter in his bag. In class, the teacher asks Yuno and Yuki to go shopping for a maid cafe event. The teacher then comments that Yuno can't go as she has a strict curfew, and another girl called Wakaba suggests to go instead. Wakaba grabs Yuki's head during the shopping trip, and Yuno comes barging in with the speed of light to separate them inside a bunny costume. They both finish their shopping, and Yuki decides to give the love letter to Wakaba. Each time he tries to give the letter to Wakaba, Yuno disrupts his plan somehow in her costume. Yuki realizes that the bunny is after his letter, so he rushes to Wakaba and finally hands her the letter. Yuno comes back home. She greets her parents' corpses who died a month ago. She recalls that when she used to break curfew, her parents would put her in a cage and starve her. She remembers that she got tired of everything and drugged her parents to put them in a cage, and somehow they died. She recalls how Wakaba didn't accept Yuki's letter and becomes happy. She then tells herself that she has a future since she will become Yuki's wife. In the present, Deus tells Yuki that the whole world will end if he dies and that Yuki has to win the game to revive his mom. Yuki reads his diary, which tells him that his dad is a suspect in his mom's murder. His dad arrives soon, and Yuki tends to his wounds. Yuki asks him to come clean, but he just laughs him off. Yuki notices a pawn receipt and asks his dad what he might be giving away, but his dad laughs this off too, so Yuki decides to follow him. Nishijima meets up with Yuno and casually asks the psychopath who the third skeleton in her house belongs to. Yuno ignores him and walks away. Yuki wakes up late and rushes off to catch his dad at the pawn shop. He barely misses his dad at the pawn shop. Using his diary, he follows him to the Sakurami shrine. He catches up to him and snatches his bag away from him, expecting to find evidence related to his mom's death. He opens the bag and finds a telescope inside. His dad explains that he wanted to go stargazing with him once more. He apologizes to him, and Yuki tells him they can stargaze after he has finished his sentence. Both are getting along when suddenly a policeman approaches them and stabs Yuki's dad. Yuki's dad falls down and dies. Yuki realizes that the only way to undo everything is to win the game and become God. When the policemen approach him again, he becomes Bruce Lee all of a sudden. He stabs one of them and uses his diary's entry to dodge the second one. He then uses one of them as a shield to block the bullets from the third policeman. Yuno, who could never miss a kill party, arrives and finishes off the third policeman. Yuki tells Yuno that she is her enemy too since he has to win the game now, and she assures him that he can kill her anytime he wants since that's how much she loves him. Yuki then begins to cry and whine like the pathetic loser he is. The city mayor discusses shutting down the orphanage run by Kamado since it may shelter the terrorists behind Sakurami Tower incident. He gets all the votes and the orphanage is announced to be shut down. Meanwhile, Deus gets requested to remove Yuki and Yuno from the game since they have disappeared for 5 days and have not been coming to see Deus as well. Deus is about to grant the request when Yuki arrives with Yuno in his arms. He reveals the 11th Keeper's identity as the city mayor and explains that he'd been searching for him the past 5 days. Later, Yuno tells his desperate loser self that he was really cool. She tells him the mayor probably wants to shut down the orphanage to get his hands on Kamado's server diaries so that he can make his own child keepers. She then gives Yuki a script to win Kamado over. Yuki starts to whine pathetically that he can't do it, and Yuno reminds him that he has to win the game to become God. Aryu tells Nishijima about the mayor, and Nishijima with his bright luck tells her that he's been appointed as the mayor's guard. He also informs her that Yuno was adopted by her parents. Yuki, based on Yuno's script, teams up with Kamado and her child keepers. The plan is that he will distract the mayor during his ride and the child keepers will then attack him. Meanwhile, Ta will keep an eye out on Kamado and Yuki's movements. Nishijima drives down the mayor, and they get stopped by the child keepers who release the sleeping gas on the mayor. Yuki and the other child keepers then launch their attack on the mayor. One of the child keepers guides all the others using her diary. The mayor then uses a signal jammer to shut down all the child keepers' diaries. Yuki then begins to shoot at all the child keepers. Yuno, who can never miss any fun, descends down and kills the child keeper who was guiding the others. Yuki reveals that his plan was to hand over Kamado to the mayor all along. Yuno butchers Teru, which is her favorite hobby at this point. Kamado runs away and Nishijima picks her up while Yuno and Yuki follow them. Yuno reads Yuki's diary and sees that Akai's will tell him about the third corpse in her backyard. She starts to worry, but Yuki assures her he won't leave her. Yuno shoots at the mayor's car, but mayor predicts the move and she fails. She shoots at him again, but due to the mayor's diary prediction, she fails again. Yuki then forces the mayor's car off from the road. Yuki and Yuno get out from their car and rush to the mayor's car. Yuno is about to shoot the mayor when he tells her that their allies will arrive soon. She gets confused and suddenly Akai's arrives on the bike with Uryu. Akai's then throws a box at Yuki and Yuki opens it up to see a dried up umbilical cord, which is always such a delight to see. Akai's explains that they matched the third body with Yuno's umbilical cord that her orphanage kept with them and that the test came out fully positive. He then reveals that the third body belongs to actual Yuno, while the Yuno standing with Yuki is an imposter. Yuno tries to explain herself to Yuki, but he steps away from her. The mayor shoots at Yuno, but Yuki protects her. He tells Akai's it doesn't matter who the third body belongs to since Yuno is Yuno. Later, Nishijima sends Uryu official police blueprints to help her attack the mayor. Uryu goes to the place Nishijima told her about and finds Mayor and Kamado there. Mayor tells Kamado that he plans to connect her diary with a supercomputer called Holon 3, and as a result, he will make every citizen of the city into a child keeper. Uryu gets fed up with all the nonsense and throws a grenade at him. He catches the grenade and throws it back at her, predicting her every move. She then runs away, but the police chase her. Uryu struggles to escape since Mayor predicts her every move and the police chase her on Mayor's orders. Nishijima helps her hide and he tells Uryu that he has decided to change sides. He then takes out a ring and asks her to marry him. Mayor asks Kamado for her diary and she strips down to show him her diary, which is tied to her body. Meanwhile, Nishijima tries hard to get the cake, but Uryu keeps refusing him. She tells him that she'll consider his proposal if he can help her destroy the computer. Mayor starts to connect Kamado's diary to the supercomputer just as Uryu barges in with her explosive. She rushes in, but the mayor predicts her movements and she gets captured soon. She is about to blow herself up, but Nishijima, the knight in shining armor, barges in. He shoots at the police and taking the grenade from Uryu, he goes inside and throws it at the supercomputer. The lab explodes and Uryu and Nishijima make their escape. Nishijima is about to claim his desperate reward and kiss Uryu when the radio interrupts him. Apparently only half the lab was destroyed and now many citizens have become child keepers. Deus thinks Murmur is planning something, so he hides in a shell and thinks whether he should use his power to make one final move. Uryu and Nishijima escape to a building, but they surprisingly find Kusaka, Hinata and Mao there. The trio tells them they all have future diaries now and that Akai's told them to come here. Uryu reads Kusaka's diary and finds out that the mayor has 2 more Holons on the quad tower's top floor that they need to destroy simultaneously. Uryu chases off the kids away and tells them she will destroy the Holons alone. Later, Nishijima tells her that he won't leave her alone. They are then joined by Kusaka and the others who tell Aryu that they will also help her. Aryu thinks that Mare's diary may have a weakness. When she goes to Deus to ask him, he stabs her, but then she becomes fine suddenly. Later, Mare instructs his team to capture Aryu's group by reading his diary, and they fail. It is explained by Deus that Mare's diary can monitor the diaries of all the users, and that it was originally the Mare's idea to create the future diaries, making him the creator of the diaries. On Aryu's instructions, the group posts fake diary entries, and they use this technique to avoid the Mare's security and advance forward. Mare realizes that his secret has been revealed. Just then, a bomb bursts near Aryu, cutting her hand, and an officer shoots at Nishijima. Mare comments that even if his diary can be manipulated, he can use his secretary's diary, which gives details about the Mare's action. The group gets captured while Aryu drags Nishijima away. The officers shoot at Aryu, and Nishijima, the knight in red armor, blocks her by getting shot instead. Yuki arrives at the scene and shoots at the officers. He tells Aryu he was using them as decoys to make his move. He then calls Yuno and tells her to make her move. She indulges in her favorite activity and kills all the officers. She then takes civilians as hostages and meets up with Yuki. A media helicopter broadcasts that in exchange for the hostages, the mayor has to let Kusaka and the others go and take his life. Yuno, who loves to save people, then rushes off to save Kusaka and the gang. Yuki and Aryu rush to find Mayor, and Aryu threatens to kill him for the 4,000th time if his plan fails. Meanwhile, Kusaka and the others are about to be shot when Yuno arrives and kills the officers. Yuki and Aryu arrive at bank where they spot Mayor. Mayor tells them that the bank used to be owned by Yuno's parents, but it went bankrupt. He then runs away inside a vault just as Aryu shoots at his secretary. The secretary tells them the vault passcode after Aryu threatens to blow out his brains. When they enter, they find another locked door inside. Meanwhile, Yuno realizes that Yuki can't get the door open in Gasai Bank and rushes to find him. Aryu tells Yuki that she will kill him to avenge Nishijima, who was the only freak in love with her, and she shoots at him. He dodges the bullet and runs away to hide. Aryu tries to find him and gives him a reality check that his reason is pathetic, just like him, since parents die all the time. Meanwhile, Yuno finds Kamado instead. She jumps to kill her, but Akai's blocks her. Just then, she reads in her diary that Yuki is writing his last message telling her to win the game. The future changes suddenly. Aryu rushes towards Yuki but only finds his future diary there. Yuki steps towards her with a gun and, crying like a little girl, he tells her that he killed many people due to the game and that he didn't have a choice. Aryu whacks him on seeing such a wuss behavior. Yuki shoots her and she falls down. Mayor, who's been watching everything, then announces to Yuki that he and his parents were just lab rats to him. Suddenly, Aryu gets up. She tells Mayor that a bomb will explode when she dies and that the explosion will open the door. She then closes one door and prepares to die. As she breaks her phone to kill herself, she recalls that she only wanted somebody else to save her all along and that she finally has her humanity back. She dies and the bomb explodes, but still the door doesn't open. Yuno arrives just then and tells Yuki that they have to destroy the South Tower Hall and to defeat Mayor. Yuki rushes off to the South Tower, leaving Yuno to engage in her favorite activity. She opens the vault door and shoots at Mayor, killing him at last. The next day, Yuki wakes up with the crazy chick Yuno in his bed. He reads his diary and realizes that Akai's will hand over Kamado to him. At Akai's house, Akai's recalls that he saw Yuno open the vault door by using retinal scanner, which recognized Yuno. He comments that he cannot trust Yuno since he doesn't even know her true identity. Suddenly, time-space balls start to appear everywhere in the world, and Yuno comments that Deus' time must be coming to an end, meaning the world is ending. Deus gets visited by Kamado, who also takes Akai's with her. Murmur tries to kick Akai's out, but Deus stops her. Akai's asks Deus whether Yuki can undo everything that's happened if he becomes God. Akai's hears Deus's answer, but Deus grabs him before he can vanish. Deus tells him that he had created Akai's to be an observer, and now that everything is ending, he will send Akai's to Akashic Records where all major historical events are recorded. He then comments that Akai's has always followed his instructions only, and Akai's argues that he acted on his own will. Deus tells Akai's that if he can point out one action based on his own will, he will spare him. Akai's points out many events, but Deus refuses all of them. He comments that his gay love for Yuki was real, but Deus even refuses that. Akai's is about to disappear when a future diary appears in his hand. He explains that he had Kamado convert his diary into a child keeper diary, and that the appearance of his future diary was by his own will. He then declares that he will save Yuki, and Deus lets him go. Yuki and Yuno rush to Akai's house to find Kamado. They find Akai's there, who asks Yuno to go away so that he can talk to Yuki alone. Yuno runs at him and stabs him. She asks Yuki to chase Kamado. Just then, Akai's gets up and Yuno realizes he's wearing body armor to protect himself. She runs at him with a taser and he blocks her again. He shows them his future diary and explains that his diary allows him to track the diary keepers. Yuki thinks Akai's has betrayed him, so he rushes off to find Kamado, leaving the psycho chick. Yuki finds Kamado and Hinata stops him from going after her. She reveals that Yuno has been lying to Yuki and that he cannot bring back the dead if he becomes God. Meanwhile, Akai's restrains Yuno and the crazy psycho stabs herself. Seeing that the situation is getting out of hand, he treats Yuno's wound and then rushes to find Yuki. Yuno calls him Yuki and tells him that his friends are lying to him. Yuki, who has never used his brain, shoots Hinata and kills her. Bao starts to whine that Yuno is lying to him and Yuki shoots her too. Kusaka tells Yuki that he doesn't deserve to cry like a dog and Yuki shoots at him too. Akai's approaches him. He tells her that Yuno wants to become a god and that she was using him like a dirty rag. Yuno arrives just then and Akai's tells Yuki he deserves someone who'd tell him the truth. He then kisses Yuki and rushes at Yuno to kill her. They both fight and Akai's breaks Yuno's phone just as Yuno slices his neck. Akai's falls down and sees that even though Yuno's phone is broken, she has another one in her hand. He realizes both the phones are future diaries, but he can't figure out who the second phone belongs to. Yuno and Yuki go to Kamado where crack case Yuno stabs and kills her. Meanwhile, Akai's gets an epiphany about the truth. He realizes that the only possible explanation is that there must be two living Yunos. He approaches Yuki but he's unable to speak. He types in his phone and steps towards Yuki but Yuno rushes at him like a dog and cuts his neck away from his body. He still steps towards Yuki and shows him his phone. Murmur carries Deus's core in which he is restrained. She tells him that this method can extend his lifespan till July 28, and he replies that Murmur was not his servant after all. She then wears his crown and announces that she will rule the dying world. Yuno tells Yuki that the world will end on July 28 and they will also become one that day. Yuki wakes up in Yuno's house 3 days later and comes across Yuno taking a bath. He keeps thinking whether Akai's and others were telling the truth or not. Later, Yuno gives him clothes to wear and asks him to take a bath with her. He replies that he cannot use his phone in the bath. They eat dinner and Yuno complains that even though she has killed so many people for him, he still won't make a move on her. The next day, Yuki visits his house and his school. Yuno approaches him there and tells him that she knew they'd end up together since she first talked to him. She reminds him that she'll be watching over him as if the whole world doesn't know at this point and then runs away. Later, he reminds himself that Yuno always protected him and that he should grow some balls and spend the remaining time loving her. At night, he goes to her and they take a bath together. Then go to her room where they make love. After doing the nasty, Yuki asks her why she lied to him about bringing back the dead. Yuno, being the nutcase she is, takes out an axe and throws it on the floor. She replies that she lied to him to make him happy and that Yuki should kill her now to become God. Yuki tells her he doesn't want to become God if he has to kill her and that he would rather die together with her. He then tells her about Akai's message, which stated that Yuno had already become God once and had traveled back in time. Yuno switches on her psychopath self and attacks Yuki. She begins to chase him through her house and Yuki ends up in her backyard. Just then Murmur appears and pushes him in the hole. Yuki wakes up in his classroom where he sees Yuno approach his past self. Murmur appears and tells him that he's being shown the past with Yuno. Meanwhile, in real life, Yuno screams at Yuki not to listen to Murmur. Murmur then shows Yuki how Yuno became God during the first incarnation, but she couldn't revive Yuki. She then shows him that Yuno traveled back in time and killed the second incarnation's Yuno, who was actually the person who had promised to become Yuki's bride. As the murder scene replays in front of Yuki, Yuki yells at the second incarnation Yuno not to die. Somehow she hears his voice and at the last moment and writes with her blood to help her. This makes Yuki furious, who yells out Yuno's name. The past world collapses and Yuki comes face to face with the first incarnation Yuno. In the past, Murmur gives the phone to the first incarnation Yuno and tells her to use it like she always has. In the present, Murmur uses her powers and Yuno's house starts to float on a ball in the air. Murmur then explains that when Yuki opened the door in Yuno's home, he changed the future, due to which it was discovered ultimately that there are two Yunos. Yuki then asks Yuno why she tried to kill him. She explains that Yuki wanted the both of them to die together because he couldn't kill her, so she should kill him instead to become the god, and that way she can travel back in time to play the game once again and be with him. Yuki calls her crazy, which is an understatement, and Yuno yells at him that it's the only option she has left since the world doesn't let her be with him forever. Murmur uses her powers and Yuki starts to fall to the ground. He remembers all his friends that he killed for his selfish reason. Murmur is about to declare Yuno the winner and make her the god when the future suddenly changes. Yuki, the big great hope, climbs up the floating rock and tells Yuno that he cares for her and will save her no matter what. He then slips and falls down. Aryu jumps through the air and captures Yuki. She then jumps in the air towards Murmur. Murmur begins to attack her, but Aryu dodges her every attack. Murmur comments that Deus must have given some of his powers to Aryu. Seeing that she's losing, Murmur grabs Yuno and starts to fly. On Yuki's request, Aryu the superwoman flies towards Yuno and Murmur to stop them from time traveling. Yuki and Aryu travel back in time to the past, where they land inside a building. Aryu tells him that Deus had given her half of his powers and knowledge when he had stabbed her. He had then told her that Murmur was serving another god, which was probably the first incarnation Yuno, and that Aryu should stop Murmur. Yuki realizes that they have traveled 2 years back in past and that Yuno is going to kill the third incarnation Yuno in 2 hours. Meanwhile, the third incarnation Yuno is trapped in a cage by her mother, and her mother tells her some useless stuff about not caring about her. Aryu and Yuki arrive at Gasai residence, and Aryu warns Yuki not to interfere. Yuki sneak peeks a look at Yuno in her room and realizes she's knocked out cold, lying in her vomit and piss. He calls the ambulance and tells Aryu that he cannot leave the third Yuno leave alone, even if she'll turn out to be a mental stalker. Just then, the first incarnation Yuno arrives at the scene with Murmur. She comments that she knew Yuki's diary would help him, so to counter him, she has brought his loved ones with her. She then shows his mom and dad. Aryu jumps to action. She takes the third Yuno and flies off while taking Yuki with her. Yuki whines about saving his parents and she doesn't listen to him. She takes him to Sakurami Tower and throws him to the ground. She then asks him whether he has come back to save Yuno or his parents. Murmur tells Yuno that she has an advantage because of her diary, which tracks Yuki's movements. Yuno thinks to herself that she owes Yuki a goodbye. Just then, an ambulance arrives and Yuno's dad barges in. He asks Yuno whether her mom did anything to her and if she is okay. Yuno does the only thing she knows how to do and stabs him. She then rushes to kill the paramedics, but Murmur stops her and reminds her not to cause a paradox. Aryu takes Yuki and the third Yuno to their school. Yuki tells her that he wants to save both Yunos, and Aryu tells him to suck it up. She then leaves him to deal with his mess. Yuki takes the third Yuno to their classroom and leaves her there. He steps out and faces the first Yuno. Yuno attacks him and Yuki dodges her every attack thanks to his diary. Murmur attacks him at Yuno's instruction and he manages to avoid her too. Yuki lands in a class and a black sphere appears. Murmur uses her powers to explode the black spheres. Meanwhile, Aryu calls Kurusu and tells him about his son's heart condition. Guess she's not the devil's incarnation after all. Yuki runs away and Murmur keeps attacking him wherever he goes on Yuno's instructions. Yuno starts to feel bad when she reads in her diary that Yuki is hurt. Yuki also reads his diary and realizes Yuno is going to kill him soon. Yuki finds Yuno and schemes to take away her diary to change the future. He rushes at Yuno and Murmur attacks him. He dodges her attack and yells that he loves Yuno. Yuno throws a knife at him, which doesn't hurt him miraculously, and he jumps at her. He tackles her and tells her to go back to become the second world's god, and Yuno starts to laugh like a madwoman. Meanwhile, Aryu and Murmur continue to have their separate showdown. Yuno uses her powers and the huge sphere hits Yuki, crushing him. The future starts to change for all the diary keepers as the fight continues. Yuki wakes up and finds himself in the kitchen with his parents. He runs to his room and Yuno appears floating in the air. She tells him he's in an illusionary world that she created using Deus Core. They both argue uselessly about becoming God and loving each other. She tells Yuki that he would have fallen in love with anyone who'd be his protector. She gives him an illusion where Wakaba comes to him and, stripping her clothes, she starts to seduce him. Yuno then leaves Yuki in the sphere. Aryu approaches her and throws Murmur at her feet like a discarded tool. On Yuno's orders, Murmur's shackles break, giving her access to full power, and she attacks Aryu again. They both fight each other and have their Naruto vs Sasuke showdown again. Yuki wakes up in the illusionary kitchen again. He eats breakfast with his dad and they discuss to go stargazing. Meanwhile, Murmur starts to attack Aryu. As Yuki talks with his parents, Murmur lands her final attack on Aryu. She rips her arm and defeats her. Yuki starts to cry pathetically. He tells his parents about the dream he had in which he loved a psychopath stalker. Yuno throws away Aryu like a broken toy and turns around to deal with the third Yuno. Yuki gets ready to go stargazing with his parents. Murmur seals up Yuno's dad wound to avoid any paradox and then asks Yuno to kill the third Yuno. The third Yuno wakes up and the first Yuno starts to tell her about the future. She says that her mom's abuse towards her will start to get worse while her dad will stay out late, such that eventually she'll give them sleeping pills which will lead to their death. The first Yuno tells her she loves her parents and that they will surely understand her. Yuno realizes that she once had hope for the future, but eventually somewhere along the way she went haywire and became a nutcase. The third Yuno asks the other one whether she loves someone. Murmur notices that something's wrong, and just then, Yuki also stops going along with his parents. He explains to them that he can't go stargazing because he should be doing something else. The police arrive at the school and Yuno's mom comes with them. She sees Yuno's dad walking on the roof and runs towards him. The future starts to change at a fast speed. Nishijima finds Aryu, who looks familiar to him. Tsubaki's parents don't leave for their trip. A bomb gets found in their car and soon the culprit is caught too. Keisuke's future changes since his parents are no longer a part of the evil cult. Meanwhile, 12th finds the third diary keeper Hiyama and restrains him. Hinata and her dad start to get along due to their bonding with the dogs, and Hinata asks whether he can teach him some tricks. Mayor realizes by reading Yuki's diary that he will lose. He tells Deus that the winner will travel back to past rather than saving the future, and Deus comments that he will have to select the next god through some other method. Murmur comments that everybody's future is changing so rapidly that the game may cease to exist too. Yuno rushes to stab third Yuno, but Yuno's dad blocks the attack and gets stabbed instead. Yuno's mom arrives at the scene and rushes to the third Yuno's side. Meanwhile, Yuki's parents tell him to go to his psychopath girl and that they'll always support him. Kirusu also arrives at the scene and asks the first Yuno whether she is the school attacker. First Yuno realizes Yuki has managed to change the future for the third Yuno after all. She rushes forward to kill her parents and Kirusu shoots at her. Suddenly, second world incarnation Murmur appears and stops Kirusu's bullet just as Yuki also appears and hugs Yuno. He tells Yuno that he will save her this time. Second Murmur restrains first incarnation Murmur. Yuki tells Yuno to do her most favorite thing in the world, which is to stab him. He tells her that she doesn't belong in this world. Yuno tells him she understands, which is new since she never understands anything. Surprisingly, Yuno stabs herself, saying she can't do this to Yuki. They both kiss and Yuno dies. Second Murmur announces Yuki as the survival game's winner and takes him back to his world. Eventually, Yuki arrives back as the god and all the black spheres disappear. In the third world, the future has changed. Ryu from the second world watches news about herself. She teases Nishijima and he kisses her cheek. Man has got more balls than the whole world. Kirusu calls and reminds Nishijima to pick him from the hospital where his son is admitted for treatment. 12th visits Hiyama in the prison. Marco and Ai enjoy their date while Keisuke's parents enjoy their day out with Keisuke. Tsubaki's parents tuck her in while Kamato gets lucky and goes out with the peanut brain mayor. Third world Murmur reports to Deus that there's nothing unusual to report. Third world Yuno goes out to lunch with her friends and shows them her diary, which has details about her family trips. She sees Yuki, who is walking by with Wakaba and his parents. She then comments that she seems to be forgetting something important. Yuki, who has spent 10,000 years now, tells Murmur that he doesn't want a world without Yuno. He wonders what happened to the third world Yuno. Suddenly the future changes, and rather than saying Yuno died, Yuki's diary says that Yuno has come to meet him. Is the game truly ended, or will Yuno come back to claim Yuki and launch another paradox? Comment your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel for more content.